I'm stuck at Mom's for dinner. Love you. The message glowed on her phone like a lie that hadn't learned how to blink yet. Across the room, 3 tables away, her husband lifted a wine glass and laughed softly with a woman who wasn't his. Mother wasn't family, and definitely wasn't supposed to be here. The restaurant hummed with quiet conversations and clinking silverware, but in that instant, the sound drained out of the world. What remained was the truth, sitting under warm lights, pretending to be polite. Her name was Alina Moore, and she did not move. She sat perfectly still, fingers resting on the edge of her plate, breath shallow but steady, as if her body already knew that panic would only blur what she needed to see clearly. The restaurant smelled of rosemary and grilled meat. Candles flickered. Server passed. With a practiced smile, nothing about the room acknowledged the small earthquake happening inside her chest. Elena's eyes stayed on her husband, Daniel, or the jacket she had pressed that morning. He leaned in the way he did when he wanted someone to feel chosen. The woman across from him smiled like she believed him. Elena noticed everything. The way his phone rested face down. The way he nodded too often. The way his hand hovered near the woman's glass and then pulled back. Cautious but familiar. It wasn't rage that came first. It was clarity. Earlier that evening, Alina had come to the restaurant alone. Planning to surprise Daniel with his favorite dessert after a long week, he had said he'd be late, but it sounded tired. He had said Mom's place was loud and he'd explain later. Alina had believed him because belief had been their habit for years. Now belief collapsed quietly, without drama. She looked down at her phone again at the message that had arrived less than a minute ago. The timing was precise. Too precise. A cover laid gently over a truth he assumed she could never reach. Elena felt something settle into place, not bitterness, but resolve. She did not cry. She did not stand. She did not storm across the room. She watched. Elena had always been an observer. A skill she learned growing up in a house where moods changed without warning and silence was safer than asking questions. She learned to read rooms, to notice patterns, to wait for the right moment. To speak, that skill had carried her through school, through work, through marriage. Tonight, it would carry her through this. Daniel reached for his phone and typed. Alina watched the small movement of his thumb, the faint smile he wore when he hit send, the relief that crossed his face like he had just secured a door behind him. Elena's phone buzzed again. Love you. She inhaled slowly and let the air out through her nose. The woman across from Daniel laughed again, touching his wrist lightly, a gesture meant to test boundaries. Daniel didn't pull away. He didn't lean in either. Balanced, careful, rehearsed. Alina realized then that this was not new. Memory shifted. Late nights explained too smoothly. Phone calls taken in other rooms. A patience she had mistaken for maturity. A distance she had blamed on stress. The truth did not scream. It lined itself up and waited to be recognized. A server approached Elena's table and asked if she was ready to order. Elena smiled politely and said she needed a moment. Her voice sounded normal. That surprised her. She looked back at Daniel. And the woman. The woman's dress was simple, tasteful. Her posture was open. She looked like someone who had been told a version of Daniel that did not include a wife. Alina felt no urge to punish her. The urge was for something cleaner. She picked up her phone, typed with deliberate calm. Her message was short, precise. A sentence designed to end pretending. I'm at La Veranda. 3 tables behind you. She pressed send. Daniel's phone vibrated. Alina watched the moment land. The stiffening of his shoulders, the way his breath caught just slightly. He did not look around right away. He read the message again, his face drained of warmth. He lifted his eyes slowly, scanning the room, searching for the version of reality he preferred. Then he saw her. There. Eyes met, the distance between them collapsed in a single heartbeat. Years of shared mornings and small jokes and quiet promises rushed into that look, then broke apart under the weight of what could not be undone. Daniel stood too quickly. His chair scraped. The woman across from him froze, confusion flashing. Across her face, as she followed his gaze to Alina, understanding came next. Sharp and unwelcome. Alina stood as well, but not to confront. She picked up her purse and walked toward the exit with the same calm she had used all evening. She passed Daniel without stopping, reached for her arm, then stopped himself, aware of the eyes around them, aware that the performance had shifted. Outside, the night air was cool and steady. Alina took a breath that felt like the first real one of the evening. Heard Daniel behind her, calling her name softly, urgently, as if volume could rewind time. She turned. Daniel started explaining before she could speak. Words tumbled out, careful and clumsy at the same time. He said it wasn't what it looked like. Said he didn't want to hurt her. He said he was confused. Said too many things too fast. Alina listened without interrupting. She watched his face the way she once watched storms roll in, recognizing the signs, knowing when shelter mattered more than argument. When he finally paused, she spoke. She said she wasn't interested in competing with a lie. She said she had seen enough. She said, "Trust does not fracture loudly. It erodes quietly." And tonight it finally showed its shape. Daniel tried to step closer. Alina stepped back. She told him she would not make a scene. She told him she would not negotiate reality. She told him she deserved honesty, even when it was inconvenient. Then she turned and walked to her car. The drive home was quiet. Alina did not turn on the radio. She let the city lights pass like markers, each one carrying her farther from a version of herself that had waited too long to ask questions at home. She placed her purse on the counter and sat at the kitchen table. The clock ticked. The house felt familiar and different at the same time. She allowed herself a single moment to feel the ache, the loss of what she thought she had. Then she stood and opened a notebook. She wrote what she knew, what she felt, what she would no longer accept. Later, Daniel came home. He stood in the doorway, unsure, smaller than she had ever seen him. Alina looked at him and felt something unexpected. Relief, because the worst part was over. The not knowing, second-guessing, the quiet erosion. The truth, once revealed, had given her something solid to stand on. She told him they would talk, but not tonight. She told him to sleep elsewhere. She told him consequences do not need shouting to be real. Daniel nodded and left the room. Alina sat alone again, but this time it felt different. Not like abandonment, like space. Somewhere in the city, a restaurant cleared tables and wiped down. Lies, life moved on, indifferent. Alina closed her eyes and rested her hands on the table, grounding herself in the simple fact of being present, because sometimes the most powerful moment isn't confrontation. It's the quiet decision to stop believing a story that no longer tells the truth. If this story resonated with you, comment where you're watching from and what you would have done in her place. Share your thoughts with respect, and subscribe for more cinematic stories about truth, courage, and the moments that change everything.